Welcome to today's edition of Mental Health Matters. Today, we're going to be talking about mentorship. I have Andre Williams on the show with me today, and we're just going to have a discussion about mentorship. Get you something to drink and get you a snack and come on back. Good morning, Mr. Williams. How are you doing today?
Good morning. Good morning, Jesse. I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Man, I am super tired. I stayed up late last night. Of course, it's the weekend, and I'm like, oh, I got to get up. I'm studying, resetting my alarm, and I'm just like, okay, no, just let me
Right.
go ahead and get up and stuff. But after I
Right.
get through this, I'm sure it'll be okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, man. I'm sure you will be too.
Yeah. Well, let's start off with you just kind of reintroducing yourself, man, and we will go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, my name is Andre Williams. No relation to Jesse Williams, but
Yeah.
um, I've been married to my wife Tanya for 10 years. Got starting our 11th year in about a week.
Nice.
Got three beautiful daughters, and yeah, just ready to get to it.
Nice, nice, nice. So me and Andre, we had a discussion. Actually, I reached out to him the other day about having a conversation on his show about mentorship because that's something that I'm really, really passionate about. And I think that's something he's passionate about as well.
Yes.
And we've had several conversations on this, so we felt like it'll be appropriate to just kind of bring this to the show. So, Andre, what? Let's start off by talking about the word mentorship. In your words, what does mentorship mean?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a broad question, right? Because I think it'll mean something different potentially to different people. But for me, mentorship in simple terms is just somebody that can help guide you through your life,
Yes,
different aspects and areas of your life. Is somebody that can, in a sense, kind of hold your hand and kind of just guide you through.
yes, absolutely. And when I think about that particular description that you just expressed, I think about how so many of these youth today, in my opinion, that could benefit from having some sort of mentor or a person that can guide them around the down the right path. Some of them really don't have that, you know.
Right.
And I think that's important that people in general and society make themselves available for that. Unfortunately, we don't always have that because some people are broken inwardly themselves, or some people are just focusing on their loved ones, or some people come from one parent home, whatever the reason may be. But I really think that that type of support is needed. Have you ever heard the saying that it takes a village to raise a child?
Absolutely. Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
so I think with that, I think that that's something that the, the youth in society today really need, that type of support. Do you have any experience with being a mentor or being mentored?
Yeah, absolutely. On both ends of that spectrum. More recently, the church that me and my wife got saved in, we very quickly got involved in the youth ministry there. For about 3 years. We were the youth
Wow.
leaders.
Oh, I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And so there was a ton of that going on. And then even on the opposite end of the spectrum and being mentored, I played sports in high school. And I had coaches that I would consider mentors. And then as I got older, just different people in different sectors that have mentored me as well.
so let's go back to the youth part, because for some reason I missed that. I didn't know that about you. How was that for you, being in that role, and what type of situations did you deal with, um, mentoring or being a youth leader?
Yeah, no, great question. So the ministry that we were a part of was called Victory Outreach, and they primarily the vision was to basically set up camp in
Okay.
the inner cities. So a lot of the youth that we were dealing with that would come into the church were youth whose parents were inner city people.
Wow.
A lot of them impoverished, a lot of them, struggle with drugs and alcohol, a lot of single parent homes, a lot of brokenness, right?
Yeah.
So you I come across a lot of different stuff, man. But one thing for me that I always, this might go on a tangent, but that I
No, go.
always try to do is just be like I can't be anybody but me, right?
Right.
And I feel like all I tried to do for them was to just obviously God will give you discernment on maybe what a person or insight on what a person may need, right? Or they might just flat out tell you, but I just tried to be, what I felt I needed
Yeah.
at that age, right? Because I mean, there were kids as young as like 11 and all the way up to like early 20s that were in the youth group. So yeah, I
Wow.
just tried to be for them, what I felt I would have needed
Mhm.
at that time.
You know, I really like that I liked your answer, as a matter of fact, and because that kind of, sparked a memory in me. Years ago, I was, heavily involved in the ministry and preaching and evangelizing and stuff. And the pastor wanted me to be over the youth ministry. And
Mm,
so I prayed about it and things like that. And so, I kind of was, still has hesitation, but I, was agreeing to it. And so I remember the first time he had a meeting with me, because he wanted to just kind of sit down with me and pick my brain and stuff like that. But during the process, what he was doing, he was trying to coach me on how to deal with the kids, instead
mm,
of allowing God to use my own individual personal experience. In
mm,
other words, he was trying to shape me to be the youth leader that he wanted me to be, and I
right,
couldn't do that. And so after I left that meeting, man, I just, I was kind of like, man, like, Lord, I need to talk to this man, because I know my personality. I know I can't be shaped. I know that for a fact.
right.
When it comes to stuff like that, I want God Himself to shape me. So the next day, I called him, and we sat down and we had a meeting, and I just kind of laid it out there for him, and he could tell that I felt a little bit uneasy during our conversation. And needless to say, I did not get the job as being the youth leader, and I was okay with that, because I didn't want to go off what they were telling me. Because what if I would have ran across a youth, a 16-year-old who would have experienced the same thing I've experienced in life? Then that means I wouldn't have been able to share my experience that would have potentially, led this boy in the right direction. So that
Absolutely.
didn't work for me at all.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's great that you did that because like you said, that needs to be organic,
Yeah,
that,
right.
that relationship. Now, as far as structure of service or
Yeah, that's different.
that's different, but
Right.
him trying to tell you how to engage
Right.
these people, that's you can't do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not
Yeah.
how it works.
Yeah. Because sometimes we do have to share our personal experience in order to reach these kids. Sometimes
Absolutely.
if you ain't been through nothing, they're not gonna really. hear you or respect you because they're gonna feel like you don't understand, you don't know what we're going through. But as you
Correct.
bring your personal experience into what you're trying to do and teach them, I feel like you will be a lot more effective.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
Um, so have you ever mentored someone that did not want to receive your guidance? And if so, how did you handle that part?
Yes. Believe it or not, that's happened multiple occasions. And so how should I phrase this? Uh, for me, my style
Yeah,
is that I am not like forceful in that
yeah,
way. For example, if I feel like God has placed a young person in my life, or it could even be somebody that is like a peer for
yeah,
whatever reason. Maybe God puts that you in their lives to try to mentor them because you've experienced something that they are currently going through and they need guidance,
yeah,
uh, right? What I try to do is just take those opportunities to share my knowledge about a topic or a situation or a circumstance, to help uh, to help this person make the right decision,
right.
or to help this person, or maybe the decision has already been made and now they're suffering the consequences. Maybe to
Mm,
help them through that as well. And it's funny because I don't think I've ever experienced somebody just flat out telling me like, "Hey, man, I don't want this from you."
yeah,
It'll be more of a passive aggressive, in the way that the time that you spend with them, the effort that you put out,
mm,
they don't reciprocate it, or they
uh-huh,
don't receive it and do what you've told them.
yeah,
So to me, that's the same thing,
yeah,
right? They're just not telling you, but they're telling you because they're
yeah,
not taking that tutelage.
yeah.
So yeah, that's happened on multiple occasions for sure.
Yeah, you kind of talked about that those or that particular individual pretty much reaping what they sowed, and now they're in the
Hmm.
midst of reaping what they sowed, and them needing some guidance how to deal with that situation. I know, oh my goodness, for myself, I've had several situations like that. And I one thing God had to really teach me is not to take it personal. That's
Yes,
because I think at
that's
some
good.
point I was taking it personal. Like, I'm sowing all my money, my time, my experience, my wisdom,
Hmm.
just everything until the to this situation, because I'm believing that this is from God. So God is
Right.
making provision through me. And when I don't necessarily um, get that reciprocated in terms of seeing them get it, oh, you should have been
Yeah.
knowing this by now. That I used to take it personal.
Right.
Now I'm not in that space anymore. I'm actually the opposite. you know,
Right.
Yesterday, I was with one of the guys that I mentor, and I took him to a job interview. I have helped prepare him for it, create his resume, just the whole nine yards. Did a mock interview with him and all that, and he went there. He ended up getting a job, but
Nice.
it wasn't what he wanted to be. So in other words, that was
Mm.
his second interview, and the people was not forthcoming about the structure of the job, about what was going to be required of the job. And so the job is pretty much would have been him going door to door, knocking on people's doors and selling stuff. And that's not what he was led to believe. So,
Okay.
well, yeah, so when we got in the car, when he got in the car, he started telling me about it, and he just broke down and started crying, then I'm just like, oh man. So immediately I started praying in my heart, like, Lord, you know, give me the words to deal with this, the right things to say. So I let him
Right.
finish. And one of the things that I didn't say this to him, but one of the things I thought was, you had two interviews with this organization. One of the first things I taught you was ask questions. Ask them
Yeah.
what the pay is going to be. Ask them what do the job entail. And he didn't necessarily do that. He didn't necessarily get in
Mhm.
there and ask questions from the first interview. because if he'd got there for the first interview, he wouldn't have went to the second. So
Right.
then I had to think to myself, like, okay, you know, had a conversation at another time. But I really had to get in there and really encourage him, because he's working, he's doing good, but then he want to move on to something else. And, he will start to be depressed and felt
Mm.
like, oh, his life is a failure.
Oh
But
wow.
yeah, but I did take that opportunity to try to school him about people, life. Like I said, man, this is one of the things I always tell you, like people or things are not always what they seem up front in your face.
Yes.
Eventually the person or situation will eventually show itself. And that's exactly what happened with the job.
Right.
So he kind of got that and stuff like that. But it is, for me, it is hard to go back to the original question. I have another friend that this is a little bit challenging though, that I mentored him for like what, 14 years.
Mm.
And he kind of went and did his own thing and stuff, but he now have people around him that is not really spiritually sound, and I'm not talking about people who, because we all make mistakes. And
For
so
sure.
I can see him getting guided by some of the input he get. So I don't give him any input at all. Zero, none.
Mm.
And he called me yesterday, he was telling me about the situation. What do you think? And I can't really give him any input because he comes back with what he's being fed by them. I'm trying to
Right.
come from what I know in terms of Christ, the Bible and stuff. He's coming
Yep.
to me from a psychology point of view.
Right.
So right then, that's a conflict of what I believe. So,
Absolutely.
but that's so I've learned to like just back
Yes.
those things happen instead of just trying to force something or be in control of something, and just let God handle it.
Absolutely. If I could add to that before we move on, is that I was thinking of that scripture in the Bible where Jesus was telling them not to throw their pearls before the swine,
Yeah,
right? And so when that happens, uh, what I'll do is I will not force myself on them, but I will begin to release myself from them
yeah,
in a sense of, okay, maybe you aren't ready,
yeah,
right? And maybe, maybe we just need to take a break.
yeah,
So maybe, and I need to direct my energy or, to another person until you circle back. Because
yeah,
more 9 times out of 10, if that person really wants
yeah,
the mentorship, they will circle back and they'll be like, hey man, we haven't connected in a while, or right then, okay, they're hungry again, they're ready. So
yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. Why do you think it's important for people that resume the roles as a mentor or a circle of support to somebody? Why do you think it's important that they are very sensitive to the person's needs?
that's a great question. Cause I honestly, my mentor style, I think that is imperative.
Yeah,
Um, especially so I take that back to an extent. I think it depends what sector you're receiving the mentorship in. I think if it's
yeah,
like business or work
yeah,
related,
yeah.
I think you can almost not fully take the emotion out of it, but it's about business, right?
Right.
So your emotions don't really matter. It's the final result. Can
Right.
you execute? So when it comes to that, it's not really necessary. But when you talk about personal mentorship,
Yeah.
I think that is vital, right?
Yeah.
Because the thing is you need to, just like Jesus did. He said he looked upon the crowd and he took compassion upon them,
Yes.
right? So it's the same when, even more one-on-one, you could call it discipleship if you wanted to. It's
Yeah.
just taking compassion upon that person and almost being able to uh see it from their point of view so you know how to attack it
Yeah.
properly,
Yeah.
right? And so absolutely, I think that's important because I know me personally, just even my personality, um, when I have had personal mentors who didn't take that into account for
Yeah.
me, I put up walls.
Right. Right.
Put up walls, right? And I go, okay, well, obviously either A, this person just doesn't understand. Maybe I didn't communicate it clearly, or number two, they haven't experienced
Yeah.
what I'm experiencing. Therefore, they don't have any emotion about it, or they can't show sympathy
Yeah.
towards it because they don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's very important.
Yeah. And the reason why I asked you that, because I actually ended up in Sacramento, California, because one of my mentors is a pastor, and I knew
Mhm.
him and his wife back in Illinois. They were very instrumental in my life, not necessarily um, in a spiritual way, but yes and no. Because when I met them, I feel like I was already equipped. But
Right,
I felt like they needed to add some things to my life, more so like a father figure, because I never had a
right,
relationship with my dad. And so this man, his wife was there for me during some very trying times before I moved to Sacramento. And so God pretty much led me to listen to him. And now here I go.
right,
So the goal was, and I'm gonna be totally transparent here. The goal was, before I came, was, I was gonna be preaching in the church, and I was gonna be they was gonna assist me with my finances based off what I was gonna be doing. And so we got here, I started preaching in church. And what happened was, the congregation, they started to want to hear more from what I was, feeding them with, you know.
right.
and and so jealousy creeped up with him in
Mm,
him. Now, this is a man that I looked at as almost perfect. And I'm gonna tell you why, because I never had saw any of his flaws. When he
right,
presented himself to me, it was just like, and I'm like, yeah, I want to be like that one day.
yeah,
And but when a jealousy creeped in, then I started to see another side to him.
right,
And they were paying like my rent, my bills, and things like that. And so when the jealousy creeped in, he stopped paying the rent, he stopped paying the bills. And so I would just kept doing. I was so hurt. I just couldn't believe it. If somebody would have told me that 2 or 3 years ago, I wouldn't. You couldn't convince me of that, because I have
right,
nothing bad to say about this man, and I only
right,
saw good things.
right,
And so eventually, people in the church, they started hearing the rumors and stuff. I would never talk bad about him. I would never confirm or deny. And this older lady, she took me and my cousin out to Mimi's in Roseville. And so so pretty much she started to really step in and to help us until we got on our feet through the Lord. But I'm telling you, that thing hurt me so much. But even before that, some of the signs was, when I was mentoring some of these guys that did not go to his church, he wanted me to bring them into his church. But I was
mm,
explaining to him, they have their own church home. You know what I'm
right,
saying? God just allowed me to run across these guys to talk to them, just because whatever the reason had been. But I couldn't pull these people from their church, and it was just, dude, it was crazy. But from there, I did get some up out of there, because it taught me to be transparent with the guys that are mentor, like share my
absolutely,
experience. This, not, do it in a very wise way, but I have struggles just like you do, blah blah blah, because I
absolutely.
didn't get that reciprocated to me.
Absolutely. And it's so funny, man, Jesse. I have a similar experience, and I guess if you want to categorize it as a church hurt, right? It
Yeah,
happened in the church, right? I have a very similar experience, not the same circumstances,
yeah,
but it was a pastor. It was someone who, I would still to this day consider who was my spiritual father. And again, early days presented himself to me very perfect. I At least I seen him in that light,
yeah,
um, and then began to do certain things, and I began to see certain flaws that weren't, and that he wasn't being transparent about, and then would take certain actions against me
yeah,
that again began to make you go, man, put up walls, and then you
yes,
begin to see certain things, and then what begins to happen is now that well that you used to drink from, now you feel like that well is poisoned, and now you're like, man, I don't know if I can really trust
Yeah.
what being said. And but yeah, so, and that could be for a later date, man. We could talk more about that,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah.
very similar.
Yeah, it's important. It really is important for those people who resume that role. And it's not even something that we ask for. It just, I feel like, it's just some situation that God put us in, like to run across people. You'll just have a heart for them. You won't even know why. Like, I just want to help this person, or you just want
Yeah,
to check in, see how they're doing and stuff like that. And then before you guys begin to build a relationship, and then you find your role within that relationship. And
for sure.
but I've learned, I'm telling you, even though that stuff hurt me to the core, I really feel like I needed that, because that really helped me along the way. It taught me
Yes,
so much,
yes,
because I was one of those people who pride myself in my image, especially in the
yeah,
church. I'm just like,
yes,
nobody know my faults, what I'm saying?
yeah,
Nobody know my struggles. And
yeah,
it taught me to be transparent to a certain extent with certain people,
right,
especially those who were looking up to me. You know what I'm
yes,
saying? Because there's only one perfect example. We know who he is,
that's right.
but it really helped me. And, and and even to this day, I try to reach out to the past. We're not, you can have those generic conversations, but you can
Correct,
tell it's definitely not the same at all, you know.
correct. Yeah, you're right about that.
So let me ask you, let's get into this. Let me ask you another question. Do you think that people who comes from a two-parent home, do you think those people that come from two-parent home, they come from a really good family, good jobs, good upbringing, and so forth? Do you think people like that could potentially need a mentor, someone that's outside of that, what I'm gonna call good family structure?
1000%.
Hmm.
1000%.
Yeah.
Um, and again, for a lot of different reasons, right? I'll
Yeah.
just touch on some briefly. It could be maybe your parents or your family structure, their their goal was to guide you or point you in a certain direction, and you
Yes.
get become of age and you go and
Yes.
you're like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I need somebody who can guide me in what I would like to do. I want to be an entrepreneur.
Yes.
I don't want to be, a doctor
Hmm.
or a lawyer. I want to maybe be a sports therapist.
Yes.
I want to do something totally different. Maybe your family shuns you for that. So
Yeah.
yes, that person would require a mentor,
Yes.
if they're going to get to their end goal. Um,
Yes.
it could be someone who, and I think we spoke about this on a previous episode, but somebody that has a good family structure doesn't necessarily mean that that person is not going to struggle with drugs or alcohol.
Right.
Maybe they have a drug and alcohol problem, so they need a
Yes.
mentor to help pull them out of that, to show them the way. And it could be somebody who did not come from a good family
Uh-huh.
structure, but
Yes.
maybe they just had a similar experience that they
Hmm.
had overcome.
Yeah.
That's the type of mentor that they need, because that's the other thing, is just it's relatability,
Right.
right? When you talk about that, what there's a lot of other reasons. Say they came from a good um family structure, but maybe say that, because I'm a son, maybe that father son relationship wasn't what it really truly looked like from the
Yeah.
outside. Maybe there was some from the in their interaction something lacking, and the son or daughter even felt like, man, I long for a more intimate guidance from a male figure. They
Yeah.
might cling on to a teacher. They might cling
Yeah.
on to a coach. They might cling on to a pastor. They
Yes.
might cling on, right? So it's so many different uh, aspects and answers to that. But absolutely, I think that can be the case.
Yes. I'm glad. I love your response, by the way, and I'm glad that you brought it out like that. And the reason why I wanted to bring that up was because I think sometimes when people come from those good stock, that good background, and it's been interrupted by God sending somebody else to kind of pick up where they left off, per se.
Yeah.
I think it's hard for, like, definitely the parents, the siblings, and things like that, when they see that somebody else has that person ear and guiding them in a place that they actually want to be in. The person who's being mentored, who's
Right.
cultivating, like you said, their parents may want to be a doctor, but they may want to go on to be a lawyer,
Yeah.
and things like that. And I've experienced that too. And that Andre, that to me, that's so hard, because the guy that I mentored for 14 years, it'll actually be 15 in July, but he comes from a really good family. I'm talking about, just, I used to look at them like it was perfect, because I didn't see anything wrong. And once I started getting
Right.
close, I started seeing all this stuff like, whoa, they're not as perfect as I thought they was. But,
Right.
you know, I had a big role in his life, and it was hard for them to accept it, especially the dad.
Mm.
And
Hmm.
I felt bad, and I'm trying to encourage, like, hey, you need to be talking to them. And and they didn't like that. They didn't like
Right.
it at all. Even with the guy that I'm mentoring now, um, his brother, you could tell the brother is totally, he does not like the fact that I'm mentoring him, even
Mm.
though he has a negative influence on him. He wants
Wow.
to call him, to do scams and all this crazy stuff. And I was just telling, the guy I mentor yesterday, I'm like, look, you need to tell him, I I'm not doing scams. That's not what I'm
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
But when I try to uh, guide him down the right way, his brother have a problem with it.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? So, but
Yeah.
I see him getting more mature. The guy mentor, he's getting a little bit more mature now, because I see that he doesn't want that life.
Right.
But it's hard though, man, because I do try to encourage those relationships, but then I see the negative impact it's gonna have. So it's kind of like, what do I do? You know?
Right, right.
Yeah.
No, for sure. And I've been there too, right? Like even like with some of the youth, like when I was a youth leader, and
Yeah.
it's like their whole family is, maybe they came from gangs,
Right.
so single mother, but then they got brothers or cousins who are actively involved in gangs, and they're coming to church service, or they're coming with me to go run errands, and I'm showing them what it's like to live a godly life,
Right.
and but knowing that they're going home and they're spending time and talking with, and being influenced by their brothers or cousins,
Yeah.
and it does become very hard, especially when you talk about young people,
Yeah.
because I think young people are at such an impressionable age, but then
Hmm.
also they don't, a lot of them don't know exactly what they want out of
Hmm.
life. So it's like, well, man, what Jesse's telling me or what Andre's telling me sounds really good,
Yeah.
but so is what my
Yeah.
brother John's telling me.
Hmm.
That sounds really good too.
Yes.
Which way do I, go? And so I think it takes a very patient person to
Hmm.
mentor, especially younger people, because you really have to know and understand that, man, they're gonna, I mean, they might, shoot, say the person's 16,
Yeah.
they might not catch it till 30,
Yeah.
right? Like they
Yeah.
just may not. They might have to bump their head,
Yeah.
3 or 4 times, but yeah, yeah, it's definitely hard when that happens.
I love how you talked about patience, because that's something that God is still dealing with me on. I'm just gonna be transparent.
Yeah, for sure.
And what I've learned about this whole mentorship thing, rather I'm getting mentored, rather I'm mentoring somebody else, is the person who is doing the mentoring, they will also get something out of the process. It's not
Yeah,
just the person who's been mentored, it's the
that's
person that's
good.
doing the mentor as well. Because I can tell you right now, there my patience, I mean, I've had to, pray a lot and be patient about a lot of things, because at the time I want to fix it. I want it to go this
Yeah.
way. And I know this is bad for you. You need to come over here. And they would be looking at me like I'm speaking another language. Like, no, I'm going over here. And I'm like, no, what are you doing? Like, blah, blah, blah. And and so I myself had to learn, to sit back and be patient, even though I knew these people were going to bump their head.
Yeah,
I had to sit back
for
because
sure.
my natural state is to fix it.
Yes,
you know,
yes,
and so it's I just think that this youth, especially today, really need those type of role models, people who is going to get and not just personal, to more so personal. I will lean more on, but I feel like if it's personal, it will start to spill over into other areas of their lives, whether they're
for sure.
choosing a college, or whether they're choosing to go to another job or getting in a relationship. Like the
Yeah,
nuggets and the seeds that's been planted in them, they will be able to go in these situations being prepared. But there are going to be some that, like you said, it may take them a while, because sometimes I'd be like, man, Andre, mm, I'd be thinking, Lord, like this is, what am I got to get up
yeah,
out of this? Because this is too much,
yeah.
you
That's that
know.
long suffering. That
Yeah,
long suffering.
yeah. So, how important is it for the African American community to have positive mentors and positive role models? I'm speaking more towards the youth. How important is it, especially living in 2023 with all this going on?
I think it's really important because I think just you got social media, right? Instagram,
Yeah.
Facebook, or just music is a big influence, and
Yes.
and I feel like more often than not with kids nowadays, since we live in such an information age, you got at the click of a button or just on your phone, you can access
Yeah.
just crazy videos,
Yes.
fight
Yeah.
videos, girls doing
Yeah.
crazy dances,
Yeah.
So I feel like it's more of like nowadays you have to try to what am I trying to say? Volume of information
Yeah.
that right. So right now they have access to and they're being filled with all of this nonsense.
Yeah.
So now it's like, man, especially today is as much time as you could spend with them,
Yeah.
as much and it's hard too because now you're talking about even dating back to COVID, all of the civil uprisings and
Yeah.
civil unrest that has taken place. That kind of stuff again it can mold a young black person's
Yeah.
mind. They
Hmm.
see something like that on the television constantly over the last 2 years, 3 years, and it's going to build a mindset in them,
Yeah.
right? And so again, it would, to me, I think that it's vital to have mature mentors
Yes.
who can, validate their feelings and say,
Yeah.
hey, what you're seeing is very real,
Yeah.
right? But it should not gauge or grab a hold of your emotions to gauge your decisions or to help like um because a lot of young people, man, they see that they get riled up or
Yeah.
upset and they just go no, and then they shut off close so many doors
Yeah.
because they're just so caught up in what they're seeing on social media and stuff. So absolutely, man, I think it's like imperative that the African
Yeah.
community gets some good mentorship for sure.
Yeah, and I wanted to hear your response to that question because, I think about that a lot. How, especially with especially the one particular that I'm mentoring, I see how social media has such an impact on his life, and
Hmm.
he don't even see it. I bring
Yeah.
stuff to attention, like he really don't even see it. So I just have to sit back and pay attention and drop those little nuggets and things like that. And when things go on social media, and he talked to me about it, and I just be thinking to myself, like, man, like you don't see how this is impacting your life. I
Yes.
said you're indirectly staying involved in a lot of stuff that
Right.
isn't going to add to where you need to be in life.
Correct.
Some of the friends and some of the stuff that he let me see and read, I just be like, and I asked him, like, well, how's this gonna like benefit you? Like, I told him, I said,
Right.
just make me understand it. Well, that's your generation. Well, this response I get. And then that's where the impatient comes in that, and I'm like, okay, well, let me help me with this because he really don't understand, and the things that goes on these social media platforms. It's to me, it's fake. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? Nobody's life is perfect. So you got
No.
people putting the best of the best of the best pictures, the best videos, the best of the best everything. Now you
Yep.
got people who's covenanted to do what they're doing, a covenant to get their body fixed, or covenant to get that next gold chain or next vacation, whatever. That stuff is fake. I
Yeah.
think for the young women though, I think that because of what's going on today, what these girls and these bodies and they're getting this work did, I think the girls, the men definitely need the mentors, but I think the women definitely need a mature woman that could
Yes.
really mentor these girls, because some of the stuff that be out there, you be thinking like, why?
Yes.
This is somebody's daughter or niece or auntie, like you know what I'm saying? And
Absolutely.
you have three daughters, and I was going to ask you this too. Now I'm thinking about it. Like, how does that make you feel as a dad, like as a father, with all this stuff that's going on?
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's one thing is, I have a 14-year-old and she doesn't have social media.
Good.
We don't allow that. And again, as she gets older, she turns 18 or, whatever, or hey, that's on you, that's your choice,
Yeah.
right? But me being a father and a leader, um, we're not going to do that
Good.
because I don't want you to have access to that so young at such a young age where, again, you don't know what you want to do or be in life, right? Yet, I mean, you're 14, but some do, but
Yeah.
majority don't. Not at that age.
Yeah.
And so for me, when I see that stuff, I'm like, good Lord, man. I
Yeah.
just, I do. My heart hurts for them
Yeah.
because it's terrible. I couldn't imagine because a lot again this was a previous episode too, but a lot of it comes from how they were raised,
Yes.
what their interactions that they seen, and I'm talking about young women, the
Yeah.
interactions that they seen in the home. How was their mother treated?
Yeah.
You know, was their mother's not married and then just had a bunch of boyfriends?
Yeah.
Some were good, some were bad. Um, it has a lot to do with their self worth.
Yes.
I believe a young woman who knows her worth or knows her value uh doesn't need to do those things,
Right.
right? Like
Right.
doesn't feel the need to do those things, should I say.
Yeah.
And I feel like, I can speak to that topic and I'll give some background because I know people may see this and be like, man, it's this guy think he is, but
Yeah.
uh I was raised by women. I didn't have a relationship with my father until I was later in life, till I was about 24. 27.
Yeah.
I'm 35 now, but I was raised by my aunt, my grandmother, my mom. I have an older sister, and so yeah, just seeing it in different stages, and even now raising all daughters, you know, um, I believe that I can speak to this fact,
Yeah.
but no, absolutely, it's a lack of self respect, and it's sad because I feel like to help a young person build self respect, it takes a parent, or if it's not a parent, a mentor, an older person to help mold and shape them
Mm-hmm.
and to encourage them, right? Because any young person who has a mentor, I believe, would say, you know what, let me take stock in this.
Uh-huh.
That's not good for me.
Right.
That's not adding to or helping me get any faster to my end goal. I don't see value in that.
Exactly.
I don't want to do that, right?
Exactly.
They'll make that decision and then turn away from it. But there's no guidance, no leadership, and so you see stuff like that all over, and it's pretty sad.
No, I agree 100%. I also want to add to that. One thing I love about you, I'll tell you this, is when I see like your Facebook post, I see you post pictures of you and your daughter. I absolutely love that because I think it's very very vital and as equally as important that women have their male figure. I'm gonna say the father figure in their life to show them love, to show
Yeah.
them how a man is supposed to treat them and respect them and guide them and lead them. Because a lot of
Yeah.
times, the mother be in a home sometimes, but sometimes the dad ain't there, and then
Mm.
they long to have that relationship with their father, and then they start getting the not the real thing from the guys out in the street, and then they
Yes.
start leading them to do things that they wouldn't normally do, and when all they want is that love from that male figure, which is
Yes.
which is the dad. So I think you doing, and to me, an amazing job, because you do. I
Thank
see the
you.
pictures.
Yes,
You
sir.
spend a lot of times with your family, man, and that's good, especially with all this craziness that's going on today. It's
Yes,
needed for
sir.
sure.
I appreciate that. Thank you, man.
Yeah,
I love it.
yeah. It's man, like I just I got got nieces, and sometimes I scroll through Facebook. I never like that. I just don't like some
Nope.
pictures I'm not gonna like. And I
Yeah.
see my sister them, and certain people in the family, oh, this is cute, it's hot. And I just like, man, but like, I just I don't know how to convey this to them. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? My sister asked me one day, she was like, oh, well, you don't never be liking our posts and stuff like that. And I told her, she said, well, some things is not okay with me,
Yeah,
and
for
some things
sure.
are okay with me, so I'll pick and choose. I blocked people because I don't want to see that
Yes.
mess. I don't want to see that
Yes.
stuff. So I'm looking
Exactly.
at all these comments, and you my sister, you my niece. I don't want to see that crap, and I have
Correct.
blocked them, and I still got a lot
Yeah.
of them blocked.
Yeah.
you
I got a
know
cousin like that. I got a cousin. She's older than me and named Savannah.
yeah,
I can't do it. I
yeah,
won't do it. I
yeah,
refuse to. I don't
yeah,
want that jargon, that garbage
right,
just all in my ears and in my eye. I don't want to see
right,
all
right, yeah. But they
that.
look at us like, oh, you think you all that? No, I just know
Nope.
what I want on my news feed and what I want to be exposed to and what I don't want to be exposed to.
Absolutely. And to keep it spiritual, my spiritual father always would say, the ears and your eyes and your mouth are, the basically the gates or the windows to your soul.
Right.
And
100%.
there's certain things that, and I know myself as well. I'm a very impulsive person, right?
Right. Right.
Can be. So it's like when certain thing I said, nope, shut it down.
Yeah.
Don't want to see it, don't want to
Yeah.
hear it, don't want to speak it,
Yeah.
you know.
Good. Good. Um, how important, Andre, is it for the person to assume the role of a mentor in somebody's life? How important is it for that mentor to try and build or connect with the that person's family?
I think that that's it's important because I think again, you number one, you want to try to understand where they come from.
Mm-hmm.
You want to try to understand, what are the relationships with their siblings? What are the
Yeah.
relationships with their parents? Um, what do they believe as a
Yeah.
family?
Yeah.
And then because for me, like I said, I always take my mentorship to back to when I was the youth leader. And it was like, you can assist as a mentor in someone's life. You can actually assist by bridging gaps
Mm-hmm.
or mending relationships and families and stuff like that. And so it's important to get to know the family. What is your
Yes.
relationship
Yeah.
like with your father? Because also too, if you want to go a little deeper, is that a lot of the things that we do or say or how we act is a direct result of the interactions we've had with our family members,
Mm-hmm.
right? As we grew up, we develop these thoughts or these actions from those interactions, right? So understanding that, I want to see that, I want to know that, I want to, and then also too, just so the family will also feel comfortable with you enough to release their
Yes.
person
Yes.
comfortable with that as well, right? Because if they don't know you at
Yes.
all, they're just gonna be like very standoffish and like, I don't know about this guy, or
Yes.
but if they are comfortable with you and they know your intent,
Yes.
more often than not, they'll be comfortable releasing their family member to you.
That's you hit it perfect. And that was one of the things I want to bring out too. Because I know when I didn't know this in the beginning when I started mentoring one of my friends. He comes from a very close knit family that's not African American. As a matter of fact, he's calling me on the phone now. I'll call him back. And his family, according to him, was very racist, super
Mm,
racist, and the whole family. And so when he started to hang out with me, they start to see, according to him, a good difference in his life. And
mm,
so when he finally told them that I was African American, the dad immediately went to this attack mode about how black men, this, and that, sad, sag pants, we're not good dads, just all the negative stuff. And so they didn't want to deal with me. They didn't want to, and I could tell just the way he was with me and stuff. And but it got to a point he was just 100% transparent. I said,
right,
okay, that's cool. But the fact that he comes from that close family, I wanted, them to see that number one, God put me and this brother together. Number two, I am making God has used me to make positive change in his life. Like his life is going
right,
in a positive direction. But he was drinking
right,
pills and all type of crazy stuff. He had stopped doing it. But
right,
the issue was the family felt like they should have been the one to influence him to stop doing those things.
mm,
And so of course all the racial remarks was common and all this stuff. And so
mm-hmm,
finally they saw because what they was telling him, according to him, they were telling him, you need to only be hanging around people that's in our race and culture and blah blah blah
right,
blah. And when they saw that they couldn't tear us apart, now they want to start like seeing who is this Jay. We want to know more
yeah,
questions, ask more questions and stuff. And finally, his mom, I'll never forget this. His mom had cooked a meal, and I've never met these people. They asked on these people, but the mother cooked the meal, and he brought it over to the house. He said, "Oh, my mom made this for you." I told him flat out, "I'm not gonna eat it. All this stuff you told me." And
yeah,
he sat there, ate it. I'm not gonna eat this crap. Like
yeah,
y'all telling me y'all racist, your family racist against black people, and you'd have told me all this stuff for the last what, almost a year? No way. And
yeah,
so finally, one thing led to another, and they finally met me. And the response was pretty much, "Oh, you're not like all black people," because they view me as being put together, educated, the way I was looked, the way I spoke, and all that. And of
right,
course, I took offense to that.
absolutely,
You know what I'm saying? And so
absolutely,
me being who I was at the time, I had to kind of like, back them up off their way of thoughts, the
right,
way they was thinking and stuff. But that was hard, man. But in the end, I knew it was important for me to get a chance to know his family so that they can see that I'm trustworthy because I
for
knew that
sure,
they were really close. It just
right,
we had to get past the racial, well, they had to get past the racial part to to,
yeah,
to see that.
for sure.
So it's
That
it's
sounds that sounds intense, man.
dude, it was so intense, Andre. It was so intense. I've been over to their house. I've been a family. I'm talking about when I say family, I mean aunties, cousins, granddad, grandmother, dad, mother, like everybody. I've been at the table. I used to go over there for Thanksgiving, Christmas, birthdays, Mother's Day, Father's Day, because they are a close family, are huge, and they celebrate each other, which I always loved about them.
That's
I've
awesome.
been over there, and the grandfather. I remember one day I went over there, and because I didn't know at the time I had like one of these hats, and so my head was cold. It was for Christmas, and I walked in and stuff, and I wasn't even thinking to take off my hat. I heard the grandfather say, tell my friend's father, pretty much tell that N word to take off his hat in your house, and I'm like, You know what I'm saying? So then my friend come in, he pulled me outside. Now we can talk really because he knew, I would never disrespect them, but
Right.
you're gonna know my disdain with what you said. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
so I had to. He said, Jay, that's my dad is. I mean, my granddad is old school. He don't like has one in the house. Just take it off. Blah blah blah. Apologize. And this is stuff just since I've been knowing them. I Another situation, I went over there to eat for Thanksgiving. The uncle made racial comment. It was just crazy. But
Mm.
for some reason, God kept me in that because I felt like I had to be an example to all the crazy stuff that they thought about Black people. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? But it was very, very intense. Would I allow myself to go through that stuff now where I'm at? Absolutely not. I won't
Right.
do it. I don't even go over there no more because
Right.
of all this crazy stuff. I think I had more grace at the time to put up with it. Now I just won't do it.
Yeah.
I won't do it.
Absolutely.
I won't do it.
Absolutely. I hear you.
You got you. Okay, we're out of time, Andrea. You got anything else you want to share before we close this particular segment of the show?
No, I appreciate you, man, and and I just will say, I guess I'll say this is, you are a mentor of sorts in my life, man. So I don't know if I ever told you that, but you are. I do look up to you, man. Our relationship started as you were just my manager, but
Yeah.
over time and just the relationship we've been able to build,
Yes.
I do honor you in that regard. So
Yeah.
I appreciate you having me on, and I have fun.
Yes. I want to tell you, it is definitely, definitely, definitely reciprocated back towards you. A lot of things. Well, what you don't know is when we're not communicating, I do always speak well of you. Always, always, always. I was actually
Same.
just telling one of the guys at work about you on Friday, as a matter of fact, and he was asking me how you were and stuff like that. And so I told him, I said, one day I want you to meet him because I felt like you guys would really get along because he's like you. He's business minded, married, got kids, but he's sharp and you
Right.
guys kind of remind me each other. So, but I told him one day I'm gonna set it up. We could all just meet and stuff like that. And he said, "Oh yeah, I would love that." So,
For sure, man. Sounds good.
all right. Well, that's the end of our show. Thank you for joining in on this edition of Mental Health Matters. If you like this particular show, if you would like to be a guest on our show, or if you would like a DVD copy of our show, please dial 916 366 4600. Thank you.